first page, first objective, what questions do we have that we want to see to go over? There. Number 10. So for number 10, we have to distribute the negative 7. Combine your like terms on the same side. The negative 6 minus 14 would give us negative 20. Then you have a choice in what you want to move. What do we want to move first? Are you on your face? So we get rid of 7 and also get rid of 6p. We have negative 14p is less than negative 14, and divide both sides by negative 14. And sign would change directions, and p would be greater than 1. And then it didn't say this, but to practice your interval notation, if you imagine that this was on a number line, this would start at 1 and keep going to the right to Other questions on page 1? Or 5? For number 5, you're going to do what you would do if it was a normal set of proportions. Cross multiply. It doesn't matter if the 2m is on the left or the right, as long as you keep the sign the same. And divide. Because it was also multiple choice, you could have put the numbers into m to see which one would make it true, and 9 would have been the only one that did that. Other questions on this page? Page 2. Questions on page 2. So this is one of your and inequalities. It's condensed. So we're trying to get x by itself in the middle. Get rid of 10 by adding it to all sides. And then divide everything by 2. So when you write your, or do your graph, this is going to be from one point to the next. These are both open, one starting at negative 9, the other starting at 0 with a line between them. And when we write that interval notation, because they're both open, these would both be parentheses. Starts at negative 9, ends at 0. Other questions on this page?
Yeah.
Are we supposed to write it? Yeah, so it didn't say that, but I said practice writing the interval notations. But on the quiz on the test, it'll say whether to write that or not. Okay. Other questions on this page? So then we have our OR. We solve those separately. For the left one, subtract 3. For the one on the right, subtract 8. And divide both sides by -7. Change the direction of your sign. Make sure that these are in the same line and that they have the word or between them. And then to graph this, these should be graphed apart. One at -2 going to the left. One at +4 closed going to the right. And then that interval notation, you're reading it left to right, so it starts at -infinity, stops at -2, it's open, so parentheses. The word or starts again at 4, but it's closed, so square bracket, and then ends at infinity, parentheses. Other questions on this page? Which one? 21. Okay. And then we'll move on. So 21 is one of our absolute value. We have to make sure it's isolated with the bars first, which it is. If it's isolated and it's less than, that's your and. So you can set up your and one of two ways. You can either create your two cases, x minus 2 is less than or equal to 5, and x minus 2 is now greater than or equal to -5. Or if you know it's an and, you can make a condensed case. So -5 is less than or equal to x minus 2, which is less than or equal to 5. Either or. At the end, your answer needs to be in condensed format. So whether you solve it like this or like this, your answer at the end needs to look like this. So if we added 2, however you chose to do that, in condensed form or in the two separate cases. Not in the condensed form, we have x is less than or equal to 7, and x is greater than or equal to 3, -3. In the condensed form, it would look the same. Which means this would start at -3, close, end at 7, also close with a line between it. Brackets for both -3 and +7. Questions on that one? When you finish that, go on to the next page. On page 3, questions on that page. You're solving it like we just were. Distribute. Combine like terms. Pick something we want to move. Let's say I move 21 and added 5x. We have 30x is less than or equal to 30, and divide both sides by 30. And then if we're matching the interval notation to this, it has to be everything less than or equal to 1. So we're going to have a bracket. It has to have 1 in it. Is everything below 1, so it's going to start at -infinity, and that would be C. Questions on that page? So on to page 4. on page 4, numbers 31 through 36. In 36, Christopher incorrectly solved an inequality as shown. We have to find between two steps, did he make the mistake? Which one do we think he made the mistake? Between two steps, which two steps do we think he made the mistake? What did he do wrong between 4 and 5? So between step 4 and step 5. Because he didn't flip the sign. Other questions on page 4? Page 5. So in 38, Lisa enjoys gardening. Every sunflower plant she waters requires 0.7 liters of water. Every lily plant she waters requires 0.5 liters of water. She has a total of 11 liters of water for these plants. We have to write an inequality using S to represent the number of sunflower plants and L to represent the number of lily plants she can water. So let's focus on that, then we'll go to this last part. So because we have two different variables, this is going to be set up like your systems, but only one inequality, but with two variables. So we know the 0.7 and the S are going to go together, and the 0.5 and the L are going to go together. And because we know it's total, we're adding. The L, not a less than. And then we don't know our symbol yet, but we know the total is low. Then in this last part, it says she waters 10 lily plants. So we're going to replace L with 10. And it asks how many sunflower plants can she water at most. At most is which symbol? Less than 8. We can't plant more than what she has water available, even though she could get more water, but that's anyway. So now we have our inequality. We're going to put 10 in for L and solve. And solve for S. When we divide both sides by 0.7, what do we get? And because we can't water 0.571 of a plant, we either have to round up or down. Would we round up or down?
Down.
Down, because we can't go over the amount she has. So she can water at most 8 sunflowers without running out of water. Or maybe she runs out, but there's a little bit left. Move on to the next page. There are more of your compound inequalities. Questions on that page? $37. 37 is your and, so we have to get rid of 1 by subtracting it to all sides. And then graph it, starting at 0, ending at 3. They're both open, line connecting them. If we were to write the interval notation, that would start at 0, end at 3. They would both have parentheses. Other questions on this page? Page 7. More of your absolute value inequalities. Questions on that page? Is already isolated. It's less than, so that's another and. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a condense by making this negative 35 is less than 7x plus 7 and less than 35. When you're solving these in general, after you isolate the absolute value, keep it in the absolute value bars until it's completely isolated. Then make your 2 cases and drop the absolute value when you make your 2 cases or your condensed case. We can get rid of 7 by subtracting it to everything. And then dividing everything by 7. Negative 6 is less than x, which is less than 4. Those would both be open with a line connecting them. Interval notation with parentheses. Other questions on that page? For sake of time, let's find one graphing inequality and then one system, and we'll do one of each. If we have questions on either. Do we have any graphing linear inequalities questions over the next few pages? Page 9. So 61, we have to solve this first, subtract 2x. Divide everything by negative 1. Your sign changes, and everything becomes positive. That would start at positive 2. Your slope is also 2, so go up 2 to the right one, down 2 to the left one. This would be a solid line because it's equal to, so connect all of your points. Make sure you have arrows at the ends. This is greater than or equal to, so that would be shaded above or to the left. To state a solution, find a point in there. I forgot those were. So if I said like -1, 0, that would work. It falls on the line, but it's a solid line, so it is included. But if it were a dashed line, that would not work. Questions on that? Find one systems question we have that's 70 through 79. Pages 12 to 14. So on the very last page, page 17. So this one has your two inequalities, but you need to solve them. And you're looking for which graph matches. So I will say, without solving this first, I know one of these is going to be a solid line, the other one is going to be a dash. So the one that has two solid lines, C, we can get rid of. You know it's not going to be that one. Alright, so if I solve these, I'm going to do this simultaneously. Subtract x, subtract 3x. Divide the first one by -1, and the second one by 2. The sign is going to change on the first one, and everything becomes positive. The sign stays the same on the second one. So for the first one, we know it starts at 3, and the slope is 1. So far, the solid line is matching, and it's shaded above, so that works. And then for the second one, it starts at -2. Slope is -3/2. And it's also shaded above. So it'll be everything that way. So that looks like A matches. If A didn't match, then you would have to check the next one, and then check the next one. Do we have any general questions about the quiz you're about to take? Clear off your desk except for your SOL packet. Leave that out. And you guys are going to start the no calculator section first. So go ahead and put your calculators behind your phone. If you have a watch, go ahead and take that off.